The Chinese armed forces are rapidly building infrastructure both in Tibet and in Xinjiang, from upgrading their airfields to blast pens to permanent accommodation for troops and underground shelters for ammunition. The message is clear. The Chinese appear to be deploying for the long haul. There is also a new heliport that's coming up opposite Daulat Beg Oldie, of course on the Chinese side. Galwan appears to have stopped China, and this time China appears to be preparing for something bigger in eastern Ladakh in the times to come. After it got a bloody nose at Galwan and a year-long stalemate along the line of actual control, China is rapidly strengthening its military posture in Tibet and Xinjiang. China is building permanent accommodation, ammunition dumps, military hospitals and additional roads. China is also making heliports and upgrading capabilities at existing airports, making more runways, aprons, taxiways, blast pens for their fighter aircraft, attack helicopters and unmanned aerial vehicles. China is also working on creating additional surface-to-air missile bases along the LAC from Ladakh to Arunachal Pradesh. The Chinese armed forces have also carried out a number of military and air exercises in Tibet, acclimatizing new soldiers to the high-altitude environment.
There is some development activity which has been ongoing in Tibet Autonomous Region of China. Well, every nation will continue to prepare for ensuring its security based on their strategic interests. And I don't think there should be much concern in that, because we on our side are also carrying out similar activity, and I wish to assure you that we are fully prepared for any eventuality that we may be faced with.
Take for example the Hotan Air Base. In the past 6 months, China has added additional infrastructure to accommodate not just the J-8 and J-11 fighter jets, but also advanced early warning aircraft and unmanned aerial vehicles. Satellite imagery shows construction of blast pens for fighter jets and ammunition shelters. Similarly, at the Nagari Gunsa Air Base, the runway has been extended to 4.5 kilometers. The Shigatse Air Base has not only got a new airstrip, but also additional hangars for unmanned aerial vehicles.
हाँ, सब तैयारी चल रही है. अगर वो aggressive हो सकते हैं तो हम भी होंगे. हमारी तैयारी पूरी है.
After 11 rounds of co-commander level talks and a written agreement to disengage from all friction points, China is only increasing its military presence in the region. Drones are being extensively deployed. Chinese troops from the 4th and the 6th Mechanized Infantry Division have been rotated and additional divisions brought in.
इंडियन आर्मी ने एक्स्ट्रा ट्रूप्स को डिप्लॉय किए हैं और एयरफोर्स और आर्मी ने मिलजुल कर अपनी पोजीशंस को फर्दर स्ट्रेंथन किया है, और साथ ही साथ बड़ी कड़ी नजर रखी जा रही है चाइना की तमाम एक्टिविटी के माध्यम से. सर्वेलेंस बड़े पैमाने पर इंप्रूव हो गई है.
Rudok, Gampa, Shigatse, Golmad areas are seeing new permanent defenses and military infrastructure coming up for permanent deployment of Chinese troops. In fact, in several border villages, locals have been moved away and Han Chinese families are being settled in border areas. Bureau Report, India Today. And the Congress launched a frontal attack on the Narendra Modi government, claiming that the disengagement agreement worked against Indian interests. Congress President Sonia Gandhi asked the government to come clean on the situation along the line of actual control. The BJP has hit right back, accusing the Congress of speaking the language of the adversaries. Anand Patel with this report. Cold tension at the line of actual control between India and China for over a year led to a hot exchange between the government and the opposition. On the first anniversary of Galwan, the Congress hit out at the Narendra Modi government, saying there was no clarity on the situation on ground. Congress Party's interim president Sonia Gandhi in a statement said they had waited patiently for the government to come clean on the situation on ground. The Congress claimed there was no detail on efforts to restore status quo ante prior to April 2020. Sonia Gandhi said the disengagement agreement with China appears to have worked entirely to India's disadvantage so far.
There's lots of rocket science that's happening in India.
Congress spokesperson Supriya Srinath slammed the centre for lack of clarity on the situation on ground.
पैंगोंग सो में भारतीय और चीनी सैनिकों के डिसएंगेजमेंट के 4 महीने बाद कोर कमांडर लेवल की जो आखिरी वार्ता 2 महीने पहले हुई थी, उसके बाद भी चीन आज हॉट स्प्रिंग में, चीन आज गोगरा में, चीन आज देप्सांग प्लेन में जबरदस्त तरीके से घुसपैठ करके बना हुआ है.
Congress MP Rahul Gandhi also targeted the government, saying many questions remain unanswered and the government owes an explanation to the people. Congress Party's Mallikarjun Kharge accused the government of meekly gifting away land to the Chinese and demanded justice for Galwan Martyrs. AIMIM MP Asaduddin Owaisi accused the government of failing to protect the borders.
Mr. Modi has no policy on how to take back that 1,000 square kilometer. They have not taken the country into confidence. They don't have any strategy. We are just keeping quiet. And that is why I say that this sacrifice of our 20 brave soldiers has gone in vain, unfortunately.
In the line of opposition fire, the BJP hit back, accusing the opposition of trying to politicize a national security issue when operations and engagement with China are work in progress.
They don't answer the questions they raised about the Congress party. They have never let the nation know what sort of engagement they had with Communist Party of China. Why was the money transferred in the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation? You need to answer more questions than raising question about valor of our army.
As the standoff continues at the LAC, the opposition has now opened a second front to take on the government.
While life is limping back to normalcy in the country post second wave of COVID, the situation is far from normal at LAC in Ladakh. And with the Chinese backtracking on their commitment for de-escalation, the opposition parties have grabbed this opportunity to target Modi government yet again. This is Anand Patel in New Delhi for India Today.
So as China strengthens infrastructure in Tibet and in Xinjiang, it's the opposition that's targeting the government on India's China policy, or as the opposition says, the lack of it. Joining me on India First is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General of Infantry. General Kulkarni was also Chief of Staff of the Ladakh Corps. He understands this area like the back of his hand. Dr. Shama Mohammed represents the Congress. R.P. Singh represents the Bharatiya Janata Party. And my first question is to R.P. Singh. The Congress President R.P. Singh, Sonia Gandhi, says disengagement agreement with China appears to have worked entirely to India's disadvantage. She wants the government to take the opposition into confidence and give details of the current ground realities.
Well, let's understand, this is disengagement and then not de-escalation. The process of disengagement is on, the level round of talks has happened, and then that's how Pangong Lake, the finger 4 to finger 8 has happened, and it's on. But that's who's talking. I have some detail to say. Aksai Chin, some 37 to 44 kilometers. Chai Pang, Chabi Valley, 250 kilometers. In 2008, Zorawar Fort, Damchok was taken over, is in possession of China. Who's talking? I still remember Nehruji in the parliament said, not a blade of grass grows in Aksai Chin. How does it matter? And I remember the reply of Mahavir Prasad, a Congress leader, Mahavir Tyagi. He said, my head is bad, not a single hair grows. Shall we give it to China? So this is the people, this is a background of people who are questioning us. Today, army is fighting eye to eye. And then there's a complete free hand. I remember Mr. Anthony in the parliament said that we are helpless. We don't have arms, we don't have ammunition, we don't have infrastructure on China border, so we are helpless. We can't, and that was not far away, far long. This was way back into 2013, September 2013. Give me a second. After Shamsaran who filed a report, this was after Shamsaran who filed a report that 40 kilometers of the Indian territory has been occupied by China, not us. He was the National Security Advisory, chairman of the National Security Advisory Board during UP regime. And that was the answer of Mr. Anthony, that we can't do much. Sir, but
Dr.
today,
Shama Mohammed, China, according to that Russian agency TASS, suffered 45 fatalities at Galwan, got a bloody nose at Galwan, disengagement at Pangong So after the QPQ operations have taken place. Now China is strengthening its infrastructure. Government says this is work in progress, the disengagement, and the fact that China is strengthening its infrastructure in Tibet and Xinjiang is proof it did not get what it wanted. India hit back.
Gaurav, another second, sorry.
Gaurav, hold on, hold on, sir. Let Dr. Shama Mohammed respond.
Shama Mohammed, 1 second.
Let her respond. I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you for another intervention.
Gaurav, 1 second, only 1 second. I mean, let's all pay homage to our soldiers. I mean, let's pay salute to our brave soldiers, including Captain Colonel Santosh.
Yes, sir, we began the bulletin with that. Sir, let's stay on the substantive point at this point of time. It's a serious charge that the opposition is leveled. Shama Mohammed, government says we are fighting back, not ceding territory.
Gaurav, you must give me uninterrupted time,
Absolutely.
just like you gave the BJP spokesperson. First and foremost, when our soldiers were brutally martyred in Galwan Valley, the Prime Minister comes on television and says, nobody has entered into this land and no army post was taken. What was that about? And just after that, that has what really emboldened China, because China went around the world and said, you see, the Prime Minister of India says that we have not gone into their land. It is they who have come into ours. And that is what the Chinese have been going around saying. So that is point number one. Number two, he talks about disengagement. Now let us look at disengagement at the Pangong So. The BJP spokesperson, Mr. RPN Singh, was talking about the Pangong So Lake. From Pangong So, we used to patrol up to Finger 8, as you know, Gaurav, very well. Now, where are we? We have been pushed back to Finger 3. Finger 3 to Finger 8 has been made the buffer zone. So on our own land, we have the buffer zone, and they are still at where they were. We have disengaged. We have gone back. I mean, status quo ante, we haven't even spoken about it. It's still disengagement. I still don't understand why this government talks about disengagement when our own Prime Minister said, you know what, nobody's come into our land. Number three, let's go to Galwan Valley, where it happened. In PP 14, where we used to again patrol up to PP 14, we have moved back 2.4 kilometers. Our front tents have gone back to 2.4 kilometers. The Chinese have moved back. Their front tents have gone back 400 meters. So what are we talking? What disengagement? And the most important in this is we got the Kailash range. That was a very important thing our army did, and salute to them, proud of them, you know. But what did we do? We just gave it up. We just gave it up for nothing. Our bargaining chip, when still they have Gogra, they have hot springs, and they're deep into Depsang Plains near the Y junction. So I don't understand what talks. There is only one thing in this government, Gaurav, only to save the face of Mr. Narendra Modi and the government. For that, they're ready to give up 1,000 square kilometers of our land. They're ready for the martyrdom. Let our soldiers be martyred. We don't care, but we will have to save Narendra Modi's face. That's
Lieutenant General Kulkarni, as a soldier who has served in that area, has the disengagement agreement with China been to India's disadvantage? Is there merit in what Dr. Shama Mohammed says, that India has moved back 2 kilometers at patrol point 14? China's already moved back in Galwan a couple of 100 meters.
Gaurav, at the outset, with having paid tribute to those who have laid down their lives today under the leadership of Colonel Santosh Babu, having said that, let me tell you, these kind of things, capacity building takes time. The armed forces, and at this point of time, at least on issues of national security, we seem to be standing united. Let me first tell you. Again, when you talk about patrol point 14, now what is a patrol point? There's an end point, and where along the undefined LAC, the troops go till there and they fall back to their respective areas. So to say that we have withdrawn 2.4 kilometers and the Chinese have not withdrawn, it is not like that. We have to be on ground to be able to see what we are. But notwithstanding, everybody is not familiar with the ground as such. Now, even for Pengang Show, the issue that we've gone there, they have gone up to finger 8 and we have come back to finger 3 or 2. Yes, we were patrolling up to finger 8. There's no doubt. They were also patrolling up to finger 4. We are not stating, we are only stating part truth. Yes, we were patrolling up to finger 8. They were patrolling up to finger 4. And now between finger 4 and finger 8, as part of the agreement right now, has been kept as a buffer so that both the troops don't and don't meet each other. That's the first thing. Now, when I say capacity building takes time, intentions can change overnight. We have over a period of time now building our resources. We are ensuring our infrastructure comes up. The Chinese are definitely not to be trusted. You know what kind of an attitude they have.
Yes.
But to say that we have vacated Kailash, which has an advantage to the Chinese, it is not so. The Kailash ranges were not occupied before we occupied them. It was we defeated the clandestine occupation of Kailash range.
However, General, it remains a fact, and RP is saying, since you represent the ruling party, you must respond to this. When disengagement took place from the Kailash range after that QPQ operation, the agreement in writing was that India will withdraw, China will withdraw from all friction points. We withdrew, China still hasn't withdrawn from either Gogra or Hot Spring, let alone the Depsang Plains, sir. RP Singh.
Gaurav, let me start with this. Ma'am Shama Muhammad has never been to Ladakh. You and me both have been to Ladakh and seen the ground, reality in the ground. And I worked in Ladakh for many years together. So she will not know what is the terrain, what is the hilltop, what is black top or helmet top. So, or what is the Kailash range and how does it affect and how does it affect. But yes, it's a process. It's a single process. It's not that it's over. And then it's not that we are not supporting army, and it's not that we can't go back again and do that. There are still more than 50,000 soldiers who are on ground. There are Air Force which is supporting the soldiers on ground. It's not like UPA regime when they shook their hands and said, oh, we have nothing here to, we can't do anything because we have no support system. We didn't build that. Today we are building roads, we are building infrastructure, and that bridge, because of which all the things started, that Galwan bridge has been built. And it's not that we have given it to them. And let me just recall from one of the chapters of book of Mr. J.J. Singh, Macmillan 9, page number 253. It said Nehru, Menon combined played a havoc with the military leadership. So it's not that way now.
So what has that to do with today's situation, sir?
I tell you, the reason is that today government is supporting the military all out. And then it has given free hand. It's not like hands tied in UPA regime also. The air chief said that we wanted to attack Pakistan and we were not allowed. People who mock army, valor of army, people who says surgical strike or vertical strike, and who says Sadak Shah Bunda to the army general, they talk about valor of army. I mean,
Dr. Shama Mohammed, government officials say that the whole of the nation approach is being taken to counter China. For example, because of Chinese actions at the LAC, they've been barred from 5G upgrade. The government is also strengthening Quad. This whole of India approach sends a strong message that India will impose costs on China for these LAC actions. Is the opposition not satisfied with steps taken? What is it that the opposition expects from the government, ma'am?
Okay, Gaurav, before I answer that, I just want to tell Mr. Singh that yes, I have not been there, but my facts are better than yours. So please don't put down your other spokesperson regarding
doing Google doesn't help, man.
One by one. Okay, Gaurav, one by one, please. Yes.
The answer to your question is a good question you asked me. Yes, when this thing happened, what did the present government dispensation say? We will not do any sort of trading with them. We will stop imports. We will ban many of their investors from, Alibaba is still one of the biggest investors in India. And nobody can deny that. You know that, Gaurav, and Mr. RPN Singh also knows that. Number two,
last year... RPN Singh, ma'am.
Sorry,
Mohammed, ma'am, my name is not RPN Singh. Sorry, ma'am. He's a Congress person. Don't put me in the Congress category, please.
Yeah,
last year, we did trade with them of 87.7 billion, and right now we are doing 77.7 billion trade. Our biggest trading partner used to be the United States, but now you know who's our biggest trading partner is China. So where have we gone down? We are still trading with them. China is exporting like anything to us, even when there's an economic slowdown.
So
there
a
is
5G
nothing,
upgrade,
no,
if China is
nothing.
banned from it, it doesn't make a difference according to you?
What about the trade? I am talking about 77.7 billion trade, and we
From
have a
85 million.
trade surplus. So let's not talk, but let me finish, please. And
Yes.
I with due respect to the
Please.
general, I mean to Mr. Kulkarni, who is
To
here.
General Kulkarni.
Yes,
Go on, ma'am.
yes, yes, Mr. Kulkarni, yeah, Lieutenant General Kulkarni, that we have seen, you have mentioned that it takes time. Listen, Mr. Kulkarni, I want to know why this government is not honest to its people. Call in all the opposition members or opposition parties. Tell us what is happening exactly. What is the truth out there? Why hide the truth, number one? And number two, if we have disengaged or we have not disengaged, why is it not there? Why is Mr. Modi not holding a press conference and telling us the truth? Why has the Cabinet Committee on Security not met and discussed about it? There are various things, and all those satellite images tell the truth. How much they can lie to us, the satellite images are telling the truth. There is
Okay.
no answer even now on...
RP Singh, respond. I'll get the general to respond on the factual position on ground. But on the political point, RP Singh, Sonia Gandhi also raises the point, why would the Prime Minister not take the opposition into confidence?
These are very important.
Ma'am, I'll come to the Depsang Plains point in just a moment. You've raised a very valid point. I'll come to Depsang Plains in just a moment. But what is Rahul Gandhi saying? What is Mallikarjun Kharge saying? Mallikarjun Kharge says, 1 year, the sacrifice that has been made by 20 brave soldiers, government has meekly surrendered land to China. RP Singh, response, sir.
I'm sorry, it's other way around. And she's telling that why don't we take them in confidence? You declare, open your agreement which you have done in 2008 with Communist Party of India. If Congress Party of India and the Communist Party of India, they have done an agreement. You disclose that and tell us for what. Rajiv Gandhi, I never interrupted. You interrupted, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. And then Rajiv Gandhi Foundation got huge tons of money, crores of rupees in their account. For what? You raise questions on behalf of China. Your people go and
Sir,
meet
that's a very grave charge you level,
yes,
sir. On what basis are you leveling that charge, sir?
Gaurav, let me complete. I'll just prove it to you. They were caught red-handed. I mean, they were caught having lunch and dinner with the Chinese ambassador and Chinese people here. Give me a second, man. When they were caught, when the question was raised, I said no.
Allow me. Are you saying that the Congress party is asking questions on behalf of China? Is that what the BJP allegation is? Because in case the Congress is doing something illegal, take action, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Till that time, they don't open. Till that time, they don't declare their agreement which they have made with the Communist Party of China. The question will be raised. There will be always a suspicion.
Yes, Dr. Sharma Mohammed wants to respond to that point. Because I want to get back to the substantive point about Depsang in just a moment. But go ahead, Dr. Sharma Mohammed, please respond.
You're leveling such serious allegations at the Congress party. You are in government. Investigate whatever these allegations you're talking about. You know, you can't come on national TV and lie to the people. There is nothing to do with the Congress party.
Can you make that document public? Will you make that document public which you have signed with Chinese Communist Party? Which you have signed with the Communist Party of China? Will you make
one by one.
document public?
RP Singh, please let Dr. Sharma Mohammed complete her point, sir. Sir, please let Dr. Sharma Mohammed complete her point. I will come to you to respond. Sir, when you were speaking, Dr. Sharma Mohammed didn't respond, didn't interrupt. Sir, please let her finish her point. Ma'am, quickly finish your point.
Yeah, in 2017, they got into Doklam. There was an agreement. They went out. India started chest thumping and saying, you know what, we kicked out the Chinese. Then what happened in 2018? They came and took over the whole Doklam Plateau. They are still there. So what are you talking about, Mr. Singh? Where are they? They are still on our, I mean, here, that is part of Bhutan. But what I'm talking about is Galwan, What I'm talking about is Pangong So. What I'm talking about is Gogra. I'm talking about Hot Spring. I'm talking about Depsang.
Okay.
When are we getting back to status quo ante, which was there last year in April?
RP Singh, please respond, sir. Yes. Okay, ma'am, you've made the point. RP Singh, please respond. One by one, and no heckling. Dr. Mohammed, you made your point. RP Singh, please respond, sir.
We'll get Aksaitin, we'll get Zorawar Fort, we'll get everything. Don't bother. And this is the only government.
No, sir, but isn't that rhetoric? That's rhetoric. Okay, but go ahead, complete your point.
No. When she speaks and she doesn't answer, but the 640 kilometers just surrendered in 2013. When you don't ask her, why didn't they answer about the 640 kilometers just surrendered? Give me a map in UP regime. But I'm saying is, wait for time. The government is working on it.
Ma'am, let him complete his point, please. Dr. Mohammed, please let him complete his point.
That's how they occupied the Kailash Hills, and that's how the Chinese came on the vision table.
Okay. Now, General Kulkarni, you have served in that area. You know the lay of that land. I've had the privilege of crossing Depsang and going all the way up to Daulat Beg Oldie. Now, this entire controversy about Depsang, where is it ours? Is it in Chinese control? Are we still prevented from going up to our patrol points? Are the Chinese able to patrol up to their claim line? What's the ground reality, General, about Depsang?
You know, Depsang has a history, Gaurav. It hasn't happened in May 2020. It's a history. I'll not discuss too much into detail, but yes, there are patrol point 10, 11, 11 alpha, 12, 13. Now, these are the patrol points where the Chinese do obstruct our patrolling. It is not that we cannot go. We can definitely go, but we can't go the way we were going earlier. Yes, that is a work in progress where the discussions are going on. Similarly, when it concerns Hot Spring or Gogra, the discussions are on. But to say something, I would just about to say, we should fall prey to the three warfare strategy of China. We shouldn't be saying what Mao Zedong used to say when he said about the nationalist government in China. He said, whatever they propose, you must oppose. And whatever they oppose, we must propose. That is not the way to look at it. On issues of national security, we must stand together. We know that this is a historical baggage that we are carrying, and it will take time for us to settle it. It's not easy. As much as capacity building takes time, it's a historical thing which will take time, and it is not that it has ended.
Okay. Dr. Shama Mohammed, the general makes the point, when you are facing an adversary and an adversary like China that just cannot be trusted, can the government and the opposition speak in one voice, keeping India first and Indian interests first instead of political interests first, ma'am?
How will it happen? How will it happen? They're indebted to China.
Government.
They have been paid.
Hold, sir. Let her respond.
Gaurav, we are questioning the government on what happened that day. PM Modi has not briefed anybody. He just came on television and he told us that nobody has come into our land and no military post was taken. There's a lieutenant general sitting here and he says it's a work in progress. I never thought the army thought about it like work in progress. Army always wanted victory or get things done. And first time I'm hearing a lieutenant general who says, you know what, it's a work in progress. Everything is a work in progress.
No, but that's a fact. It is work in progress, Dr. Shama Mohammed.
We want to go back to status quo ante. We want to know why the Prime Minister said no land of us were taking, no military post was taken. Why did he say that? Why did he lie on national television?
No, okay, RP Singh, you want to respond to that point?
Why didn't he come out and say, you know what, this is not what I said or whatever? That is involved in China. The Prime Minister of India lies on national television. He has not briefed anybody. After 1 year, we don't know what is the status. Why don't they tell where do we stand? The problem is, the problem is what it is about. This country has been lying after 2014, including COVID deaths. When America
okay, so you can leave COVID deaths aside. This is a very serious national security issue. Stick to your point on India and China for the moment. Of course, China also responsible, as many argue, for not giving information on COVID. But RP Singh, respond. The opposition says, the Prime Minister said, na koi ghusa hai, na koi ghus aaya hai. That it created confusion which emboldened the Chinese. Respond, RP Singh.
Well, COVID is also part of China's strategy. Let's admit that. And then world is trying to understand what is China's strategy behind COVID. And Shama Mohammed will obviously defend China for that. And as far as COVID that goes, Sir, man, Maharashtra is the biggest contributor to COVID in the country. Let's accept.
Sir,
And
again,
Chhattisgarh is another state.
unrelated to the discussion today. Unrelated to the discussion today.
Are we saying what did the government
Thank
take
you.
action against China regarding the virus in world forums? Did he say anything against Chinese?
Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh are the biggest contributors to COVID in the country.
Not the topic
If you
of
want to
discussion
hear
today,
that.
but general, I want our viewers to understand ground realities. So political tu me does happen. We're a democracy and we're a noisy democracy. Opposition must ask very strong questions and the government must respond. But as far as ground realities are concerned, are we on a weaker wicket? Because China is not honoring any of the agreements. So what next?
See, definitely, Gaurav, China is not honoring its agreements. China is not to be trusted. There were peace and tranquility agreements. And now, just as a fact on ground, I would like to clarify, when you talk about Pangangso, because that is something which everybody seems to know between finger 4 and finger 8. Now, there's an agreement that we go up to finger 8. Their agreement is that they also are coming up to finger 4. What if somebody comes and for years they've been doing that, we've been going to finger 8, they've been coming to finger 4. If they come and just sit at finger 4, what are we supposed to be doing? Immediately start it, because there are agreements in place. And even when you see all said and done, at least these agreements were there. Not a shot was fired except after a long time, 30th of August of 2020 when the shots were fired. So certain things, when we talk about, I can't discuss in the open, but what are we supposed to be doing? When they have come from finger 8, they do come up to finger 4. We go to finger 8 and they come and sit down at finger 4. Every time they would go back to finger 8, there's a change, because now you find that the Chinese have changed. They are a tough opponent to be handled. It's a challenge. Chinese are a threat. Therefore, the entire nation are united to fight the Chinese. And unless not just everybody in India has to be a soldier to be able to fight the Chinese. I find this kind of kind of statement being given, I think it's incorrect. We must stand united.
I will let that be the last word.
United against the enemy like China.
Okay, India must stand united. Perhaps the government needs to brief the opposition in private. Brief them. Tell them what's the ground reality, so that at least India speaks in one voice and China understands that India will not accept these Chinese transgressions. But we'll track that story very closely. Dr. Shama Mohammed, RP Singh and Jalil Kulkarni, many thanks for joining me. Now, 1 year ago, this time, India and Indians, we will not forget that night of 15th of June 2020. 20 brave Indian soldiers made the supreme sacrifice of their lives as they pushed back Chinese at Galwan. The Chinese were trying to come in. The Chinese were trying to occupy Indian territory, but our brave Indian soldiers prevented that. The Indian side was tasked to build an observation post to keep an eye on the adversary. The Chinese came armed with iron nail-studded metal rods, and against all odds, the Indian Army braves pushed the Chinese back. According to Russian wire agency TASS, the Chinese suffered 45 fatalities that night.
Raw courage caught on camera. A young army captain leads the charge in knee-deep, icy water of the Galwan River to push back Chinese army soldiers creeping forward on June 15th last year. Courage got on Chinese cameras as the young braveheart stares the enemy down. Inspired by this brave officer, Colonel Santosh Babu, commanding officer of the 16th Bihar Regiment, led from the front, he was tasked to construct an observation post at Galwan. The Chinese attacked the Indian army at the line of actual control. But despite being outnumbered, Chinese soldiers pelting stones from adjoining heights and attacking with sharp metal rods with spikes, Colonel Santosh Babu refused to be evacuated and led from the front. He was awarded the Mahavir Chakra posthumously.
It was not a local action by the PLA, it was a planned ambush. But the PLA was surprised, despite our troops being taken aback by this planned ambush, by the retaliation and response of Colonel Santosh Babu and his men. Those 20 martyrs, we salute them. And because of that, there is the cost they inflicted on the PLA was so heavy that PLA thereafter decided that this is not a good strategy, it's not good tactics.
Naib Subedar Nuduram Soren led his column bravely in the Galwan River clash and resisted the enemy's efforts to push back Indian soldiers. He fought to his last breath in icy cold waters and was awarded a Veer Chakra posthumously. Havildar K. Parni, the gunner, was part of the 16 Bihar patrol that was attacked by the Chinese troops. Despite being outnumbered, Havildar Parni led from the front and made the supreme sacrifice. He was awarded the Veer Chakra posthumously. Naik Deepak Singh, the battlefield nursing assistant in the middle of the battle, continued to provide aid to injured soldiers. He was killed in action, saving the lives of his comrades in arms. He was awarded the Veer Chakra posthumously. Sepoy Gurtej Singh, who spotted the enemy build-up and alerted fellow troops about it, and rushed into the battle to save his brothers in arms. Despite being grievously injured, he continued to fight to his last breath, ensuring the Chinese soldiers were pushed back. He was awarded the Veer Chakra posthumously. Havildar Tejinder Singh, the gunner from the medium regiment, pushed into the heart of the battle to push back numerically superior adversaries and continued to fight till his last breath. His leadership in battle inspired his comrades to push back the Chinese. He was also awarded the Veer Chakra.
The valor exhibited by Colonel Babu and the brave men has proved that India cannot be taken for granted. That the Indian Army will retaliate should the Chinese attempt to change the LAC.
14 other braves who made the supreme sacrifice of their lives were awarded the Sena Medal for gallantry for resisting the Chinese attempts to push back Indian soldiers, establishing an observation post in Galwan. The country will never forget. Bureau Report, India.